Hello YouTube, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to a new sort of series that we're going to start doing called the Mission Maker series. So what is the Mission Maker series? Well, it is what it says on the tin really. We're going to go through and make some missions and you'll come along with me through the process and see how I make things. Now this is purely how I do it. There might be better ways out there. But this is what I do, and it seems to work for me for the majority of the time anyway. What I'll try and do is we'll try and keep the episodes to maybe like half an hour long, maybe a little bit over or a little bit under, depending on where we are. And the first episode that we're going to look at here, well, the first couple of episodes, is making a mission template. So what is a mission template? Well, a mission template is, we're going to use a map. So here we can see we're in the Syria map, and we're going to set it as this is going to be the basis for all our subsequent missions going forward, so that whenever we want to create a mission, we don't have to repopulate the whole map with X, Y, and Z, SAM sites, whatever. It's already there. So it's not going to be a fully detailed mission in a sense in this in the template part of it. But this is going to lay the foundations for all our subsequent missions. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll put in some SAM sites, some basic assets at various air bases and some naval assets and so on. So what I've done here is I've kind of tried to go with a little bit of a real world kind of scenario mixed with a little bit of sort of imagination, a little bit I suppose. So obviously as you can see we are in the Syria map, and we're going to go through build a basis, a template for a Syrian theatre mission set from a blue coalition side of things. So as you can see, I've pre-drawn out using the draw tool over here the map and areas in which we can operate and where things are controlled. So as you can see here in blue, we've got some coalition areas to the north and south of Syria. The red is ISIS controlled area, and this is probably where we're going to conduct most of our missions inside here. This parallel line coming down, that's just for reference for me, so I know not to place anything to the right of that because it's a sparse area, there's nothing there, there's no point, whereas anything to the left of that is fair game. I've drawn out the borders, so again, doesn't matter which map view I'm in, I can always see the borders of countries. I've got a Russian controlled area here in yellow, and that's where we'll have some Russian assets flying in and out of, and then everything else in Syria is obviously Syrian controlled assets and so on. To the north I've got Turkey obviously, and I've put Turkey as a no entry zone. I think that's kind of accurate to what it is now for, say, coalition assets, that Turkey doesn't allow them to operate in their airspace before going into Syria. So there's that. What I'm going to do is, because coalition assets, so blue forces, so the USA, UK, Germany, whatever, aren't engaged in a fight against Russia or Syria. Russia and Syria are going to be neutral in this, and then IS and probably maybe some Iranian stuff will be red, so they'll be our intended target throughout the entire series. I think maybe I'll put the odd, maybe in a particular mission, we could put in a defected almost pilot from Russia or Syria that's gonna engage us, for us to counter that. So what I've done is here, although I've already put some bases as blue, red, and left some as neutral. And the blue ones obviously where we are probably going to operate out of, or coalition assets are going to operate out of. And what I've done is I've made, although Syrian and Russian places are going to be neutral, they're going to be neutral. I've made them red bases purely so that our blue force aircraft don't go and land there. Blue forces won't land on red bases, or if the base runway is destroyed. But I've not made all of them red, as you can see. There is some that aren't. But what I've done is I've I've also placed some objects on the runways for various other bases because I don't want our assets to use those bases, period. So, you know, I wouldn't want, say, like something happening over here. He runs out of fuel or whatever, and he just goes and lands there because it's not very realistic, I don't think. And you know, I'd be very surprised if that happened in real life. So this will force the AI to fly a certain way or fly back to base rather than landing at another place. Okay, so that's that out of the way. I haven't set up a date and time yet. We can adjust that per mission rather than doing it in the template, because again, every mission will be different. You might not always want to fly at the same time or anything like that. Coalition wise, let's have a look at see what we've got here. So on the red side, we've got Combined Joint Task Force, Insurgents, Iran, USAF aggressors, USSR, and Yemen. Neutral, obviously we've got Russia in there, and then blue side. This is we won't probably use all these countries, but certainly that we'll use the USA, the UK, maybe some Jordanian stuff, seeing as though we might operate out of Jordan. Iraq might conduct some strikes against some IS targets, France and Germany, and Canada, you know, and so on. So that's what our coalition looks like. What I'll do is, if there is a call for it in the comments section below, I might upload this to the DCS file library, you know, if there's enough interest in it. And the whole point of this is that you can see how missions are made going along, and try and join in if you can. So what we'll do initially in this episode is we'll set up our defense air defense sites, so SAM sites. So I've got some pictures of just from what I found on the web. Again, this is not necessarily going to be 100% accurate, and it's not intended to be. Obviously, this is aim to be fun, but we're also going to try and make it a little bit realistic. So we'll try and follow along if we can. So as you can see here, now if you look at the key, we've got S400s and S300s. Now I don't have a mod for any S400s, so I won't bother putting them in. So we'll just go with the S300, which is SA10, which is the NATO designation for it. And I do have mods for them. I don't think they're included by default. So if we come down to Russia, and we've got SA10s, perfect. So where does it say we are? So we've got one at Tyus. Now I'm going to apologise for any mispronunciation of places here. I wouldn't know how they're pronounced really, so I do apologise for that. So I can just go ahead and plonk them in. They don't have to be necessarily 100% accurate, because we're probably not going to operate in this area. You know, I think from what I've been reading, coalition forces don't really operate on the west side of the country. It's pretty much all this side, really, and into parts of Iraq. So I think it's pretty much like a no-fly area, because it's very heavily controlled by Russia and Syria. So say if we're flying out of Akrotiri, and we can't go to Turkey because they don't allow us to, we'll route all our aircraft down towards Israel, then through Jordan, and then up past Tanf, or at Tanf, whatever you want to call it, and then into the airspace, which is kind of how they do it in real life, I think. Certainly for when I've been watching like Flight Radar and stuff like that, you can see assets flying out of Akrotiri down to here, and in that way. So that's probably what we'll do. So they don't need to be, like I said, some sites don't need to be 100% accurate in location. It's just to show us, just for us to see something on the map, and a bit of interaction, I suppose. So we want the Tartus. We want one down here. So let's just go ahead and plonk him in the field, which is fine. And then there's another one going to be up here. So we'll go ahead and put him down on the coast. Again, not too bothered because we're not going to see it really. It's just so that we see something on our IWR. Okay, so that's for, these are Russian-based SAM sites, air defense sites, so we'll stick to that. There's probably one maybe up here somewhere. Don't want to put one in there. Again, I'm not too bothered, 'cause I don't want to put too many in, because otherwise it'll just clog our system. and it'll just make it real, just bring it down, you know, so it's more like a slideshow rather than a good mission. So we'll put in some other sample sites, which is almost like a wall here of what Syria has in place. So let's go ahead and look at some SA6s. So now Syria doesn't actually have any templates or some systems in here, so like I said, I'm just going to stick to Russian. They're neutral anyway, so we'll just go with that anyway. So SA6. So there are roughly up here near Aleppo, and it's more or less like a wall all the way down. So we'll do something very similar. So I should plonk one there. It should covers Aleppo a little bit. We'll have one at Aleppo as well. Oh, I don't want him. Don't want it over the runway. So let's just plonk him like that. Right to templates. Yeah. There's probably one here at this airbase. Certainly, probably one up here, maybe. So that's probably looks like the top, roughly. Top of those mountains there, so it give us good coverage for that. And then there's some down here in towards Damascus area. Now, so if you look at that map, Damascus is very heavily, fortified. But again, I'm not too bothered because these are going to be neutral anyway. It's not going to get much interaction from them. It's just to give us a bit of, just to add to the scenario. You know, maybe at one point we could put maybe like a dummy one in there. That suddenly becomes hostile towards us, and we have to react to it. But we'll make that up as that'll be more mission specific thing. So SA6, and then we want SA3s. Same thing going forward. Let's put one here on this base. Again, doesn't have to be super accurate. It's just to build up a bit of a scenario. So not overly bothered. Where do we want to put it? Should we pop it down here? So it's a bit hilly there. Excuse me. So yeah, let's pop him down over here. Shove one just bang in there. Maybe one there. I think they'll probably do for Syrian and Russian threat systems or air defense systems. Let's have a look at Israel, because they're going to be friendly. So Israel Patriot site. So they'll probably have something down here. Again, it doesn't have to be super accurate where we place it. But it's probably something like that. Put another one in there. Jordan anything? No. So let's go to USA. We'll put some USA stuff in. Again, we'll go with Patriot site. It's probably something similar. So I'll pop that in maybe here. Near the border. We'll do that, and then we'll come down to the UK. So we're going to have our UK-based stuff operating out of Akrotiri, which is what we want. So it's probably going to be facing roughly that way. Which is fine. It should cover us there, and then Turkey. Excuse me, nothing for Turkey, so I won't put anything up there actually, and so that I will. Let's go with USA again. sound system, yeah. Okay, so let's do that. Now, see, there is some tension, I believe, with Russia and Turkey because they shot down an aircraft. Again, this is just to give us some stuff, make us hear and feel some things. And it's not be super accurate. It's pretty flat up there anyway, but it's just so we can see it. Now that looks a bit of a mess. So try planning through that. It'll be a blooming nightmare. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and hide everything so we don't see it. There's no need to see it really during the planning phase, not unless we're doing a specific mission against the threat system. And given that these are friendly and neutral, we're probably not really going to see them. But you know, it just adds to the mission scenario in general. This is the long process now, but we will get there. And in the end, we shouldn't see anything on the map during the planning phase, which is good. That's what we want. Cool, so now we can't see anything. So how am I going to set this up? So for coalition forces, we've got Aperture here, so UK forces are going to fly out of there. I'll probably put an aircraft carrier in around here somewhere for some naval operations, you know, from the F-18 or the F-14. We have Ramat David in Israel, so we might have some Israeli assets flying in and out of there, so there's F-15s, F-16s, and so on. They could come in and do some missions, maybe. King Hussein Air College. This is where I'm going to base some USAF forces in there, so probably, you know, like F-15s and F-16s. I think in real life they actually operate from another base further south in Jordan, but unfortunately it's not modelled in here, so I'm going to place them up here. H4, maybe put some Jordanian forces in there, aircraft, or that'll just be a divert base for anyone that needs to divert into there. At Tanf, let's see, army base, so we'll have some helicopters in and out of there, as well as these two bases up here. We'll have some helicopters flying in and out, and then we might build maybe like a coalition army base somewhere in between the map, so we can have our aircraft flying some replenishment missions maybe. So that'd be like a forward operating base in there. Around these red bases in the ISIS controlled area, we'll put some statics in, I think. So there'll be like simulated captured Syrian assets. So we'll place them in. We might have some Iranian aircraft flying in and out of there. So we'll see about that maybe. And then we'll have some Russian aircraft flying out of Basel al-Assad. Sorry if I'm butchering that language. Flying out of there and probably out of Tyus. If we look at the pictures I've got, again, it's not necessarily... Why can't I go to the next picture? There we go. So if we look at this map here, so we've got Russian airbase there. This says it's got Russian, Syrian stuff. But well, again, it doesn't have to necessarily be 100% realistic, but we'll try and make it a little bit. So there's some Russian stuff there. So Russian, maybe some Russian stuff at Hammer, definitely at Tyus. Will depend on the aircraft, so we'll put maybe the more high value aircraft here, so like an Su-34. They'll operate from there because there's only a small fleet, higher value, and then we'll maybe put some other aircraft up at Tyus that aren't as valuable, since it's closer to the border with ISIS controlled. That's ISIS controlled. And then we'll have some Syrian stuff flying out of Damascus and around that area, as well as up here at Aleppo. Again, flying some missions in there. Now, I think, obviously, Syrian borders there. Syria will fly anywhere in their country. And I believe Russia do something very similar. They will fly anywhere within Syria. So, although this is probably where we're going to operate in the ISIS controlled area, we will have some Russian and Syrian aircraft operating in the area as well. So they're not necessarily coalition assets, but we have to be wary of them, and we'll maybe set the rules of engagement for them that they'll only return. We can only return fire if we engage them, and vice versa. Again, just to spice it up. So then, if, say, in one of your missions you mistakenly identify an aircraft as hostile and you engage it, then the Russians then should retaliate, or Syrians should retaliate against you. So kind of like it would be in real life, I suppose, which just adds to it. Now, what I'm going to do is, now, a big asset stuff, so from a coalition perspective, such as AWACS and tankers, what I'm going to do is create some trigger zones. So that usually I think they're sort of based out of bigger air bases further afield, so say like Al Dhafra in the UAE, or Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia. So if we put in some trigger zones to sort of simulate where they're going to come from and exit to, that'll be where our assets, or bigger assets, come in. So if we put a new trigger zone there, let's just make it a bit bigger. So let's just say 15,000, and we'll say coalition entry. Okay. And then we'll put another one in. Coalition exit. Okay, we'll make it the same size, 15,000 feet. And that'll be roughly sort of the direction that they would flow out, maybe. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, just to represent something. So, say we'll have our tankers maybe orbiting around here. When they get low on fuel, they'll head towards the exit. Once they hit the exit, they'll disappear. And then the next tanker will spawn in from coalition entry and then go into his orbit there, I think. Which is good. So, what else do we want to do in this episode? I might just leave it there, actually, for now. And we'll come back in the next episode and maybe start looking at the Syrian and Russian aircraft movements that we want to simulate, and we'll put a bit of some randomization in there, so that every time we fly the mission it's not the same, so there is a bit of variety, which would be good. Right, yes, happy there, I think. Oh, in fact, no, let's have a look at the map options. So I want to be able to view anything I can. We'll go on a fog of war. In the end, we will change it to a fog of war map. By the minute, we'll keep it as all, just so as we test it throughout the building, we can see everything. Labels, however you want. I just have a neutral dot, just helps me spot it a little bit. Certainly in VR, because I don't have the best VR headset, so it just helps a little bit. Some people say it's cheating. I don't really care. Game effects, no. I don't want to be immortal. We don't want unlimited fuel. I don't want unlimited weapons. Easy communication, up to you if you want that or not. Same with radio assist. Unrestricted sat nav, again, same for you, depends what you want. Wake turbulence, I do like that. GFX, let's have it as a simulation, not as game. Random system failures, I'm not going to bother ticking that, because the last thing I want to do is, spend so much time getting the aircraft up and started, and then 10 minutes into the flight I have a failure and have to return back to base. I don't have all that time to be able to mess around with that. Mini HUD, not bothered about. Visual recon mode, not sure what that is. Have to do some digging. Oh, there we go. Enables the possibility to mark a ground object on the terrain and reveal its location. On map stuff like that, uses RPM. Okay, yeah, so that could be handy. F10 map user marks. not bothered about that. Civil traffic, I'm going to keep that off because it does impact your FPS. So for the time being, I'll keep it off. Depending on how things are during missions, I might turn it on and have it set to low. Birds, not bothered about. Cockpit status bar, not bothered about. And battle damage assessment, not bothered about. That's up to the individual user if they want that in or not. Okay, so I'm happy there. Let's go ahead and save that. So to Enthoo 1. Yeah, so that'll do for the first episode, I think. So thanks for tuning in. In the next episode, like I said, we'll start looking at the Russian and Syrian airborne assets, and we'll make them do some stuff. As always, please like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help me out more than you guys know. And I shall see you next time. Goodbye.